It is an honor and a privilege to be here this morning with you for what I think is a very, very important occasion. It is a tremendous opportunity for Indonesia to take the lead on developing an academic health system, which I believe is truly the future for healthcare and better health for all. Thank you for inviting me. I have many people to thank. The list is very long. Maybe I'll make it very simple and thank the rector and vice rector for sponsoring the meeting. My pleasure, all the deans and former deans that are here. There are so many of you, and I'm very gracious that you're here today. My colleague Lokman, of course, from Malaysia. I want to recognize the fine work of the international office team at Universitas Fakultas Kedokteran Gadjah Mada for a fine, fine job. And I want to tell you all that we had a lovely dinner last night. We had about maybe 25 or 30 people at dinner coming from all over, and we had a very, very good discussion about the options that are available to Indonesia to move forward. And I became very impressed that there is a real commitment, a true commitment to creating the kind of academic health system that will not only lead to health for everyone, but will be a kind of a marker for 21st century healthcare. So with that, let me begin my talk this morning. If I can move this, let's see. Let me tell you a little bit about my, is this working? Should be working? Let me tell you a little bit about my association, the Association of Academic Health Centers International. It's not very complicated what we want to do. We want to help our members apply knowledge because our members are creating knowledge every day, whether it's research, patient care, or through teaching. And to take that knowledge and build the knowledge economy and apply it in patient care. That's a tremendous opportunity to take all the knowledge that you are creating to improve health and well-being at the same time that you build the knowledge economy for the 21st century. The 20th century had a different kind of economy. The 21st century is a technologically based knowledge economy, and I believe that we can help our members achieve that. So what is an academic health center or system? I don't know if the word is center, system, whatever you prefer is fine with me. I have an apple there with two parts. It's an academic health center that combines education and research with patient care and population health. Four things: education, research, patient care, and population health in a highly synergistic manner. And here's what happens when you do that. You create what I call a virtuous cycle, that the clinical and academic missions support each other and make each other better. I want to say that again because this is the key concept. If you believe that, then what you are doing to build your academic health system is very important. That each component, education, research, and patient care, work to make the others better. Education makes better healthcare delivery. Research improves healthcare delivery. And patient care informs education, how we teach our students. And it also tells our researchers the areas that they need to study. So I believe very strongly that this kind of virtuous cycle is what we need to do in academic health centers. And when I look at the 21st century, so many challenges, aren't there? So many things are happening. And the nice thing about the model here is that it's a good fit for what is happening in the 21st century. It's flexible. You can move it in any direction that's needed for the country and for your population. It's very forward-looking. It works with all the disciplines. It's not just one kind of discipline. It's not just medicine, or it's not just nursing, but it's all the professions. Some places involve engineers, biomedical engineers in their work, and historians and sociologists, and even philosophers can be involved. And it can adapt and help reinvent the future as it moves ahead. And its focus always is health and well-being. As I said to the group last night, as you build this for Indonesia, always ask yourself this question every time you have a decision to make. Will this help to improve the health of the people? If the answer is yes, you should do it. If the answer is no, don't do it. And if you don't have an answer, think about it some more. Pikir lama. You are creating, in effect, with this model, a learning health system. I know you've all heard this expression, a learning health system. What does that mean? It means that we're all teaching each other in real time how to be better at what we do. By bringing education, research, and patient care together, we have a system that can learn instead of getting stuck in the old ways of doing things. So again, the ultimate goal, improved health and well-being as you educate a 21st century healthcare workforce, improve science and research, and be able to create and adapt to all the new technologies that are rapidly coming into healthcare. And I want to talk about technology a little bit later. And always keep a sharp focus on population health and on global health, because we are becoming one world when it comes to healthcare. Now, many of you in this room know about a list like this. How many challenges we have in healthcare in the 21st century. This is a list that I put together. It's in alphabetical order, so there's no tricks or anything. And it's a short list. You probably could add to that list with your ideas. But you have everything from the economics of healthcare, right? The business sector and the cost of healthcare. The fact that your patients, your consumers, are learning more and more about healthcare every day and are using devices and tools to inform themselves. Big changing pattern. Diseases, always changing, always in evolution. You know, I remember reading about when antibiotics first came out. And the word was, we're going to develop antibiotics, cure all diseases, and if you want to become a doctor, don't become an infectious disease specialist. Boy, were they wrong. Diseases are constantly evolving and constantly changing. And we're getting a pattern of chronic disease that's very important, and so forth. Globalization, I mentioned earlier. Everything we do today has to be viewed in a global framework. We're not in isolation anymore, no matter where we are. And it's not just epidemiology and jet travel and the spread of diseases. It's concepts and technology and the internet and all those sorts of things. The pace of change, so fast today, is getting even faster. We live in an age where that part of the curve that's starting to go up for change is starting to go quickly now. And change will happen much faster than we ever imagined. Politics and policies. Well, I don't have a lot to say about that. It's a very hard area, isn't it? We all have our issues when it comes to politics and policies. But we must do our best to inform policy and the politicians about what will lead to better health for our patients and for our population. Population demographics, we have aging population issues, we have chronic disease issues, we have so many things that are changing. Science is amazing, isn't it, in the 21st century? All the discoveries that are happening. I remember when we learned about DNA in medical school and genetics. And we thought back then, oh well, you can find one problem gene and that will fix that problem. You'll find another gene that'll fix that problem. Then we had the Human Genome Project and say, well, things are a little more complicated than that. And now as you get into research, like for cancer, for example, it's tremendously complex, very difficult stuff, and is something that we only are beginning to appreciate how complex human biology is. The needs of society and our values are always changing and in evolution. And of course, technology, which I'll talk about later, has been described as we are in what's been described as a fourth industrial revolution. The first industrial revolution took place maybe in the 1800s with steam and power from steam. That was followed by the second revolution, which was electricity, and that made a lot of change and a lot of difference. Then we had digitalization in the 20th century, and now we're in the 21st century in the fourth industrial revolution, where all kinds of technologies, all different kinds out there, digital, nanotechnology, cloud computing, everything is beginning to converge together to create this fourth industrial revolution. So I mentioned this, and what this does is it changes fundamentally the nature of medical practice. This fourth industrial revolution is changing what doctors, nurses will do and are doing fundamentally. In the area of population health, there's been a lot of discussion of something called health equity by design. You're all aware of the problems of health disparities. There are many, many issues surrounding health disparities. Why are some groups have better health than other groups? Why does this exist in every country in the world? There are health disparities. Life expectancy, for example. Certain kinds of diseases, things of this sort. The concept for the 21st century is health equity by design. That is to say, you are building an academic health system with education, research, and patient care that at its fundamental core is designing a system that will reduce health disparities. We call that health equity by design. Think about that as you build this. Is it introducing health equity to your population? Chronic disease. Increasingly, we're going to see so much more in the way of chronic disease. Cancer is becoming, in many ways, a chronic disease. There's so many of them. And having creative management tools for chronic disease is very important. And taking full advantage of smartphones and other global technologies. We've never had the ability before in the history of the world to reach everybody with something like a smartphone. It's amazing, really. You know, there's probably something like 4 or 5 billion people in the world that don't have adequate health care. But so many of those people have phones and smartphones. Aha, there's an opportunity that's coming for us. So all these forces that are happening in the 21st century, I think, are creating a new physics of patient care. Why do I say new physics? Because I was reading a couple years ago a biography of Albert Einstein. And I thought it was fascinating how he came up with these ideas of space-time and all that stuff. I'm not sure I still fully understand them. But I thought, you know, these forces are creating a new physics in our field. And they're creating the perfect storm for a transformation, a real transformation of healthcare. And I believe very strongly that academic health centers, academic health systems can be at the center and must be at the center of these transformations. So what you are building today and what you are talking about today, you will be at the center of these transformations, not on the outside looking in, but right there in the center. So I came up with an equation. I was very original. Let's see, Einstein said E equals mc squared. So I said, let's make it E equals mc to the fourth power, just for fun, right? Kind of a joke, right? So, but let's look at my model here, all right? So, E. E is your emerging model of healthcare that you are building, this model of healthcare. M is the population, individually, collectively, etc. And you have 4 C's, C1, C2, C3, and C4. Care anywhere, care in teams, care by large data sets, and care by machines. So that's E equals MC to the fourth power. So let's look at these. C1, care anywhere. Well, you know technology is moving with the patient wherever the patient may go. And in fact, inside the patient's bodies now too. There's a new term for that they use in the tech world. They used to say wearables, things you wore like watches and whatever. Now the term is insidables, something that's going to be inside your body that's reporting out various things. That's coming. And you know, you're building a lot of buildings and hospitals, whatever, but we're going to have to make them work differently in an age where care can be anywhere the patient might be for many things, especially in the management of chronic diseases. You know, you think about chronic diseases. Let's say you're a pulmonary physician and you manage patients with COPD. Very common problem, right? And how many times a year do they come to see you in the office? 3 times maybe? More? Unless they get sick, you'll see them maybe 3 or 4 times. Or a patient with congestive heart failure. You may see them 3 or 4 times a year in the office. If they have to go to the emergency room or be hospitalized, that's something else. What are they doing the other 5,000 hours of the year then you're not seeing them? What are they doing? Are they taking their medication? Are they following their diets? Are they doing exercise? Are they doing other things? This technology will enable you to know about the other 5,000 hours, not just when you see them in the office. And we know that patients now want more convenience and one-stop shopping. You know, it's kind of, we call it the Amazon.com thing, you know, click and you get something, right? That's what patients want. They don't want to be shipped around to different places. They want everything quickly and where they can have it. Let's look at C2, care in teams. I'm a graduate of Johns Hopkins Medical School, and the person that we were told about from day one till the day I graduated was Sir William Osler, the father of Johns Hopkins medicine, right? And he talked about the doctor-patient relationship as being the single most important thing in medicine. So that's where the school I come from. But that's being replaced now by relationships with multiple health professionals. And that's a good thing and a necessary thing, because healthcare has gotten too complicated for one doctor, one person to manage everything. We need to come together in interprofessional teams to manage patients, all with our different expertise and experience. Now, figuring out how you're going to gain the most value from team care is something we all need to learn and experiment with. And how you pay for this must be supportive, and what people do or allowed to do by their license to practice needs a careful look at. Should that be changed at all? Here's C3, care in large data sets. How many facts do you think an expert clinician can juggle in his or her head at one time to make a decision about a patient? Many of you are expert clinicians, right? How many facts do you think you can juggle in your head at one time to make a decision about a patient? Anybody want to guess? Sapulu? About that, yes. 8 to 14 facts is about what a good clinician can do at one moment in time in your head. But how many facts, how many data points will we have in the future for each and every patient? Hundreds? Thousands? tens of thousands? Think about it. Many more facts than any one person can manage. These will be huge metadata sets. You've heard of IBM Watson? IBM Watson was famous for a lot of things. I think it beat the chess champion at some point. It's creating a lot of managing, how you manage all this data, plus connecting it to, you not only want to have data just for your patient, but you want to know what the data is like for all the other patients that are like this, right? And what the medical literature shows. Wow, that's a lot of information. And how are we going to manage this data? A new interpretive and functional infrastructure is required to manage this data. And an academic health system can figure this out. But the decision-making is shifting. Is the decision-making moving from the individual to the cloud, where all the information is, and then coming back? We don't really know how that's going to work. And finally, the most interesting thing of all, in my opinion, C4, care by machines. How many of you would be comfortable going to see a machine for a problem? Anybody want to raise their hand? Well, you're going to be doing it soon. What are the advantages of machines? Well, they already are starting to outperform humans in many areas, like data, being able to handle many, many huge data sets. You probably have seen robotic surgeries, like the Da Vinci system and many other systems, how they can do things very well. And like self-driving cars, they don't have to be perfect. They just have to make less mistakes than humans. Their abilities don't decline with age. Now, I know there's some people in this room that get better as they get older. In fact, most of you are getting better. But it's not true for everyone. And the machines don't do that, and they can be updated. And they're very friendly to administrators and supervisors. Less headaches with personnel management and stuff like that. They don't get tired. I'll tell you, these machines are a real threat to our practices, and we need to learn to manage these machines, which is why I started last year a new Thought Leadership Institute. Because I think we need to have an opportunity. We're so busy every day, aren't we? You have a full day, you got a million things to do. If you're a leader, you got a lot of things to worry about, but you haven't had an opportunity to think deeply about some of these things that are happening. So this new Thought Leadership Institute, the first topic is medicine and machines. How will they be managed? And we have a lot of meetings going on and publications about that. I could pick many, many more examples. These machines also are getting smarter. Have you heard of something called deep learning and neural networks? I don't understand it. I'm not a computer scientist. But basically, it's an effort by the technology computer people to mimic the way the brain processes information through deep learning and neural networks. So you might have seen a few years ago, Google came out with a contest in Jeopardy. Now, if you watch Jeopardy, you know it's a question, and you get an answer, you have to give the question back. And the thought was, how can a machine understand the question in all its nuances and do it? Well, Google came up with a program that beat the champions of Jeopardy. Then there was something else that was even more amazing. I'm sure you're all familiar with a game called Go. I'm not. I'm just told it's a very complicated game. I hear people say, well, there are more possible moves in Go than stars in the universe, or stuff like that. What does that mean? I don't know. But the machine, DeepMind, beat the world's leading expert in Go. Not only was that person beat, but in the second round on the 16th move, I believe, the machine came up with a move that no one had ever seen before, suggesting that maybe that machine is thinking. Isn't that interesting? But you know they're doing all these things already and will continue to do that. So I pull out this quote. I don't like what it says. I don't like it. But this is what the tech community is thinking. This comes from Silicon Valley in California. Medicine is becoming digital. We'll eventually be able to use artificial intelligence instead of doctors for much of our healthcare. You see why I started this Thought Leadership Institute? We can't let this happen. We need to retain a control of it. So that's the new institute. We're having a meeting at the end of January. What I've done is it's a full-day meeting, and I've invited 3 tech experts to come for the morning. And they said, what would you like me to do? Because I invited many of our members to come, 25 of our members. I said, what I want you to do is make them scared. Shake them up. Because the afternoon is going to be spent, okay, what are we going to do about this? How can we learn to work with machines? And more importantly, how can we manage the machines? Which brings me to this point. I got a new model already. I've added C5. Because here's the one area I hope and I think that machines can't do. And we have to add that to us. Compassion. Right? You know, I think there is something special about a human being taking care of another human being. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misguided. But I feel strongly about that. That compassion is something that we as humans have and must take advantage of and build into our care models for our academic health systems. So I've added C5 to my model. And I think for your education programs, it should become more of a priority. You know, if I were designing a new medical school curriculum today, and I didn't have to worry about the people who come in and say, we'll credit you, you know, you're good to go, et cetera, et cetera. If I could just do it without any concerns, I would stress a couple things that aren't stressed today. Number one, I would teach our students to understand statistics and probabilities. Because these machines, with all these facts, are going to come out with probabilities, a list of probabilities. This patient has a 92.1% of this, or an 85.9% of this treatment, or this whatever. Okay. The doctors of tomorrow need to realize they have to learn how to deal with that, how to interpret that, and how to interpret that in the face of all the uniquely human complexities that are out there. I would teach students to begin to learn about statistics and how to react to statistics and learn how to speak to them, to patients. The second thing I would teach them, in addition, is compassion. That compassion is fundamentally necessary for anyone who practices medicine, that it must start on day one of your training and be emphasized every single day until you graduate. It's not one lecture, you know, or one course. It's something that is taught every single day. So, here's what I think is the path forward. You are starting this. I'm so proud of what I heard last night and I'm seeing today. Be guided by a strong commitment to aligning patient care, teaching, and research. Building it so that virtuous cycle, they all work together and improve each other, is so very, very important. And this brings me to the AIM program, which we started last year. What is the AIM program? Aligned Institutional Mission Program. Because I believe this is so important, I would call up our members anywhere in the world and I'd say, so-and-so. How well is your institution aligning education, research, and patient care? Nobody said, well. Nobody said, oh, we're doing a great job of that. Everyone told me, we think it's important, we haven't had time to do it, and we don't know how to do it. So that's why we started this program. And it's not an accreditation program or anything like that. It's a program to help an institution in its own way set and meet their own strategic goals, measuring your organizational alignment, and benchmarking your success. And it's not a one-size-fits-all program. The fundamental basis of this program is respect for the cultural heterogeneity of each and every member institution. And we look at all these things, mission alignment, accountability, et cetera, et cetera. And we have just completed, I'm doing this very slowly and very carefully because I want to get it right. No one has done this before. We have just completed the development phase in which we had 4 institutions, one from Indonesia, work with us to design the tools that we need for this program. We're now in the pilot phase where we're testing the tools that we're developing, and we hope to launch it sometime next year. As you can see, we picked 2 Asian sites and 2 American sites, Seoul National University, Universitas Indonesia Faculty of Medicine, Jakarta, University of Arkansas, and University of Southern California. Why did we pick these 4 places? Because we had so many applications. I wanted to pick it 4 very, very different institutions to try to develop tools and processes and procedures that could work for very different institutions. And I must say that it was working very, very well so far. And pilot sites are now being identified. We're looking at about maybe 8 pilot sites for this year. So let me conclude. What do you need to keep your eye on? Remember that question I asked at the beginning? Every time you design something or make a change or have an idea, ask this question. Will this make better health for your population? If the answer is yes, do it. If the answer is no, don't do it. And if the answer is you don't know, study it. Restructure health professions education to meet changing and evolving societal needs, not just what they've always taught. Link research to improved health outcomes, and make that in as close to real time as you can possibly do. And transform patient care based on population needs and priorities. And I think your academic health systems will be well positioned for success if you can capture the power of an organization that aligns teaching, research, and patient care, that it focuses on the next generation of education, research, and patient care. Not what you've always done, but what you need to be doing. Now, here's another hard one. It has the transformational leaders to change culture and behavior. Sometimes the hardest thing in creating a new academic health system is getting people to go along with it. People resist it naturally. It's human, right? I was saying last night, oh, everybody loves change as long as it doesn't affect them, right? And the job of your leadership is to make this so that people want to do it and are willing to change their behavior to do it. This is the hardest thing. Harder than anything else you're going to try to do, is developing a strategy and having the right leaders in place, leaders that can work with each other and not fight with each other, and bring about cultural and behavioral change in your faculty. And of course, entering into strategic partnerships is also very important, because you just can't be a standalone anymore. You have to have partners and partnerships as you move forward. But I think these are the factors that are necessary for us to be successful. So I hope I haven't gone on too long. I guess I could say that if I've spoken too long, Nasi sudah jadi bubur, right? I apologize.